Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to episode 7 of the Chlorophyll podcast, a special edition to celebrate 25 years of chlorophyll. Today, we have with us a very unique personality. This is no podcast about business, this is a podcast about hope. So, we have the privilege of having Sonal Kapoor, founder and CEO of an organization called Protsahan, which heals abused children, abused girls mainly. She has a long list of accomplishments, so I was forced to write it down. I can't remember at my age all of these. So she is an esteemed Ashoka Fellow, a World Bank Fellow, member of the United Nations Girls Education Initiative Gender Transformative Education Coalition, and member of the Expert Committee on Anti-Child Trafficking at Delhi Commission for Women. Just reading that has made me breathless, Sonal. How did you manage all of that in such a short time? So before we talk about Protsahan, Sonal, we will start with a simple question. Why? You were in a cushy job with a multinational PR company, and then suddenly one day you started Protsahan. You want to tell us what triggered some of the stories you have told me have been extremely moving. You want to share how this whole transition happened?
Thank you and congratulations on 25, Kiran sir. It's been an incredible journey. I started when I was 23, 24. Today, when I'm sitting and counting my years, it's been 15 years since that fateful day. Cut to 15 years back. I was shooting for a movie that we were supposed to do for a big this project that we were working on, and I happened to meet this young mother, who was exactly the age that I find myself in today, 38, 39, and she had six daughters. She was very visibly heavily pregnant with her seventh baby, and she was sending. I so clearly remember she was sending one of her young girls, 7.5 years of age, for transactional sex work, so that for every 2 hours or 1 hour of sex work, this child would bring back आधा किलो टमाटर, 1 किलो चावल, आधा किलो आटा. I
My God.
remember. And and when I asked her, and this child, you and I walked like this child was wobbling and limping and walking like this. So when I asked her, इसको चोट लग गई है क्या? This mom says, as a matter of fact, नहीं नहीं, हम कंडम वंडम के साथ इसको भेजते हैं, so there's nothing to worry. And then I asked her, what is it that you're going to do with the seventh baby, which is in your womb? She says, as a matter of fact way again, that if it's a boy, हम बड़ा करेंगे, पढ़ाएंगे, लिखाएंगे और पैदा करके इसको, तो ये कमा के हमें वापस देगा, basically. And if it's a girl again, this time I will kill her. I will strangle her the moment she's born. And I think, today in the sector, you have a lot of conversation around the legalities of it, the gender, and the other intersections of it. But I think when you start, you just start because you want to undo a wrong, and
Yeah,
that's how we started.
incredible. And you just want to give us the impact that you have had in the last 15 years, just so everybody understands what Protsahan has achieved after this incredibly moving story that caused your starting it.
Um, मुझे अभी भी ऐसा लगता है सर that it's not that I started it. I think मैं नहीं होती तो कोई और शुरू कर देता. This work had to be done in the world, and it got started. We started with 19 girls, and not all of them were in sex work. Some of them were. Some of them had to be rescued from points of child labor, child marriage, begging, incest, severe cases of other gender-based violence. So it became basically rescuing children from severe child rights violations. And we started with 19 girls. I remember पहला Excel sheet plot जब आप अपने funder को भेजते हो, 19 लड़कियां, 40 लड़कियां, 150 लड़कियां, 400, and then फिर you lose count of it. Today we are working with about 80,000 girls a year. These are the
Wow.
direct communities of bachas and basically migrant children that we work with in the cities of Delhi. But if I look at the overall impact that we've been able to achieve in the last 15 odd years, it's been about 2.5 million children with a very clear focus on migrant adolescent girls.
Fantastic. I think I was more impressed by what you told me about 10 years ago, and that is how I got involved. Was that you actually have a unique methodology that heals those children, right?
Yep.
And then over time, as I got involved further and further, we formalized it. We gave it a name, we gave it a logo, and we called it Heart, HEART. You want to speak about Heart for our audience?
I remember, Kiran sir, we were sitting in Cafe Indigo, and I think before that, at some other tapri, and it's been, it may seem like this has come together in 2020 or 21, when we kind of formally sat at Cafe Indigo in Mumbai to sketch when you sketched it out for us. But I think it's been about out of 15 years, non-profits or NGOs are very apologetic about creating a brand, as if that is somehow a moralistic dilemma in doing good work. I think, thankfully, with your guidance, it's all Chlorophyll's support. हमको वो कभी apology नहीं लगा. It's like if you want to do strong work, it's only fair that there is a credible, and a very, every mission needs to have a symbolic, because even your own employees, your own board, your own people, leave alone the larger, demographic, needs to feel attached to a sort of a promise, right? And I think you've taught us that, even when we were 2 years old or 3 years old as an organization. And I think that journey has been incredible. I remember when we were sketching out HEART as an acronym, you said, Sonal, it should either be brand Protsahan or brand HEART. And then, we eventually came to this point where we said, but HEART is Protsahan, we can't, remove the two. Yes, we think with the head, especially when the audits are around and when expense sheets have to be made, but we are really heart, right? That emotion that anyone who understands or enters Sahan should feel like hugging just
Yes,
the brand, and heart then eventually stood out for health. So every vulnerable child that we will work with holistically or not at all, was a choice we made very early on.
right.
H standing for health of that child, E for education as a non negotiable, A for arts, because arts are that non threatening form that add healing to the life of an abused child, adds that dignity. R is rights, because again, bina adhikaron ke, everything else is superficial, needs based, sort of a thing that we didn't believe in as an organization. So rights, and T for technology, because as these girls or children grow up, having tangible connections or linkages with the government schemes, which again happen through tech, or with employability enhancement fellowships, etc., which again involve tech. So it became this holistic cycle of alchemy of, I think, love and healing.
And you have shared this at international fora, right?
Yes,
What
we've
been
been very blessed, sir, to have. I think जब आप 10 साल काम करते हो तो 11वें साल में सबको लगता है ओवरनाइट सक्सेस हो गया. But I think, yes, in the last few years, we've got a seat at the tables in the UN or the World Bank, and all of that. Sometimes it feels that हमारी औकात नहीं थी to be in these spaces, but then I think as you also grow as a woman leader in this space or generally otherwise, you start to become very unapologetic about having a seat on the table, and you just make sure that because you have a seat on the table, you're going to put the voice for those who are not, blessed with some.
cannot be there?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things we discussed, Sonal, was a friend of mine in the US, a tenured professor. He was sharing with me, and then I shared it with you, that abuse can have intergenerational damage, right? That the child who has been abused, when she becomes a mother, that trauma can be passed on. She could actually not pay attention to her kids.
Yeah.
And one of the things we decided together was that we will find proof that the healing can be so complete that it can stop this intergenerational damage. You want to talk about that a little bit because it's fascinating.
It's strange because when we started as an organization, it was always about working with that child, her family, her community. That macroscopic bird's eye view sort of a thing only came in 7, 8 years later. When we started reading a lot of Bruce Perry or Gaber Mate or, so on and so forth. And we realized that our work or any work which is deeply moving around healing the trauma of the child, and it can't be based in 6 month of log frame project cycles. This can't be done to impress a funder who, oh, there's a 6 month cycle or a 1 month CSR cycle. That's something that we've never indulged in, right?
Yeah.
This has to be long term programmatic work, because as you rightly said, with this research that we had shared over emails, and then it got us thinking, that all that we are doing, can it heal the neural pathways of a child, right? Because what happens with abuse is that the very DNA changes. The methylation to the DNA in the body of an abused child, girl, boy, irrespective, the methylation pattern to the DNA changes, right? And that gets passed on to the offspring, whether it's a girl or a boy or whatever. And I think the more we, the deeper we got into this, we realized that then there also has to be a way to heal those neural pathways. And then arts, and I think a lot of the, another thing that we figured when we were working on some of these communication pieces was caring for the caregiver. Because a lot of people, as social workers who enter the space, they're also dealing with their own traumas, right? So if they bring their trauma, and if the organization is not looking at the well-being or caring for our people who are caring for the children, then it's half battle won, right? So how do we make sure, in the pressures of the donors and what uh, the children need, and to strike that balance of well-being? Because if it's not taken care of at this level, it'll keep on passing to the next generation, and that is something which is a recipe for disaster. And we cannot let that happen.
But if I'm given to understand, do that you actually have proof that this can be healed, that methylation can be reversed. Isn't that so?
So as we speak, so we did two very small little pilot studies way back in 2019 and 2021. They were very dipstick sort of surveys, very in-depth interviews, which we measured against scientific scales, which measured for resilience and well-being and creativity and humor after you work with a child who's been abused with whatever sort of trauma, not just sexual abuse. And how do you measure for resilience and creativity and well-being before and after? So, and then we realized as we grew as an organization that that was a small little sample size. So as we speak right now, I'm so incredibly happy to share that we are partnering with the Ashoka University and some
Wow.
fabulous people to work on the neurocellular pathways to show that this can be reversed, and how strong rehabilitative models can be kind of imbibed by the country. And these then will look at caste based trauma, societal trauma, colonized colonization ka trauma, not just abuse ka trauma, right? And this will have a path breaking sort of I think just a perspective to the sector, because everybody that we oftentimes speak with, um, you know scale is such a funny little thing in the sector.
We'll
We've
come to
spoken,
that elephant in the room. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, we've spoken about it, but I think if you do the depth of scale right, then the scaling up and policy tables
Correct,
and all of that very organically happen.
correct,
But
correct.
yeah, that's been intergeneration. Trauma is intergenerational, so if it's not fixed, it has to pass on. It's science.
Yeah, yeah. So this scale reminds me, we always, and the phrase I used to throw at you was Festina Lente, hasten slowly, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you'll have done, because I don't think if the brand is about a warm hug, I don't know whether technology can replicate that or whether robots can replicate that. So you'll have moved hastened slowly. And one of the interesting things that I remember about scaling up was some of your children who have grown up and who have been healed want to go back to their villages and start a Protsahan there. It's incredible. Uh, it's not just a brand ambassador. They own the brand so much that they actually want to replicate it and spread hope and happiness elsewhere.
And it just is so amazing because sometimes they say that we want to keep the name Protsahan, and we're like, just go with whatever floats your boat, and you don't have to stick to Protsahan, because again, that's a very patriarchal sense of branding would say that, oh, retain the name. But a feminist sense to branding will say, do what the value system of this brand was, but then name it whatever. Because we are not stuck on to, it having the name Protsahan. So, for
Yeah,
example, some of our girls who severe depression and, all of that, because one of their parents had depression and all of that. And now I see, they've married out of their families, not being the easiest, but now they have started micro entrepreneurial ventures. They've gone back to Bihar to कि छठ पूजा के टाइम सारी नदियां साफ कर देंगे, but we will do it the प्रोत्साहन way. हम यहाँ पे जो कास्ट बेस्ड इश्यूज हैं उनको सॉल्व करेंगे, but we will do it the प्रोत्साहन way. And I think
wonderful.
that's something that just makes you feel like you've done it right. You're not stuck on to creating a monstrous another NGO, because the turnover of the sanstha is not how we define scale. It is really the mindset shift. So if we have done it right, we've done it right.
Correct, correct. That's a beautiful definition that all change is a shift in mindset. That's fundamentally what change is, what growth is, and all of that. You want to speak about the joint decisions. You already had a design agency. You already had some people to help you with the brand, but we kind of formalized the structure and things. We did things which fell under the infrastructure of brand.
Hmm.
uh, any decisions that pop out saying yes, this is where we found clarity on this issue? For instance, one of the things I remember telling you is that I know that you don't want to do it as a business, but you and Jazz, your partner in life, must give yourself a salary because without that, if you don't look after yourself, how will you look after these poor children? So, are there other brand related decisions we made that remind you that brand chlorophyll and brand played some role at least? I think the credit is all yours to all the people who work with you, and I've met all of them, and I've received memorable gifts for them. But from your side, what are the things in terms of brand thinking, whether it is strategic or tactical? We simplified the logo, we created brand assets of colors. Just speak a little bit about how you experienced all of that.
I think, sir, one of the first things that I remember we spoke about, now that it's all coming back, one of the things you said was, Sonal, data inspires quality, opinions don't. And I think brand for us was way more than just the hex code of the color, or the circumference, or this graphic line there and here. It was really the value system. It was when you said, if Amazon can make, or Coca-Cola can make the Amazon way and the Coca-Cola way
Yeah,
as a set of guidelines in the document, as a documented proof, what stops Protsahan to write it out and say this is the Protsahan way? And I
correct.
think, of course, then we had some fantastic people year on year जिनके साथ थोड़ा 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 tweaks हम करते
Yeah,
चले गए.
yeah,
But it was really largely our own owning up what we're doing. Um, Whether it was simplifying the logo, for example, you know non-profits and us, completely we confess that we have so much to say. So kitna sara hota hai we always say, oh, we do complex work. So for example, working with survivors of any sort of violence is complex work. It's not like putting solar cookers on the chat. You can't be transactional about it, as important that
correct.
work also is. This is soul deep, this is depth of scale, and then with the evidence, then you go policy, right? It's, I think, when we were talking about simplification of logo, I was very uncomfortable. I was like, we have so much to say. When I started as a 23-year-old, our tagline was, it's so funny and naive now that it sounds, spreading a gazillion smiles. Now at 39, 38, when I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, I should have been. But I think it's so important to live that journey as a brand, and not to be apologetic as a non-profit, or I think as a woman leader also in this space, to say, we claim our space. This is what we do, and we will do a bloody good job of it. So simplification of the logo, I remember, made me very uncomfortable. But what came of it, I remember the first logo that Rahul and I, one of the other trustees, ex-trustees, we had sat on Gmail chat to create that logo raat ko 3 baje as kids, which eventually, kind of evolved and evolved. And if I, look at the evolution of that logo to what it is now, it is simple, because simplicity is Protsahan. It is still that girl, reaching out to that extended hand, which is again Protsahan. We never say we are the doers, doers, doers. No, we are the enablers. And as we move towards scale, or reaching scale, not in the empty sense of the word, but scale of reaching so many more vulnerable bachas, vulnerable kids, we realize that simplicity is what can scale. We realize that enabling, or extension of that hand to say, hey, do you want to, like, grab some, support, rather than saying, hey, I will push you out of the gadda. What if she doesn't want to be pushed out of the gadda? So I
Very
think that simplicity that you helped us retain made it clearer for us. Leave alone the outside world or the funders, as incredible their support has been to even, for this work to exist. I think for my board, for my employees, for my people, for us as a set of incredible social workers, and we then added those little stars, some with some incredible support from so many more people that eventually came along. It's a beautiful journey, and
yeah.
uh, we were always scared that अरे हमारा logo बदल गया तो कौन हमें जानेगा. And then you said, Sonal, it's okay. If Airtel can change their logos, what stops you? So yeah.
We integrated it actually. We didn't
Hmm.
completely go away from it. We kind of integrated it. So, Sonal, off the syllabus question, out of syllabus question, do you think this process, this method, heart, will be applicable anywhere in the world, or it is India specific?
So this is when we say healing, this has to be at a human level. So it
Okay.
doesn't matter if it is India, Pakistan, South Africa, USA. It is really about human connection. It is about caregivers, healing touch. It is about also tangibles. A lot of people can come up and say, hey, it's love and care, and all of these are very feminine values. You can't scale it, you can't put an SOP around it. No, you can. When you say trauma informed care, or TIC, which is the hallmark and the bedrock of heart, trauma informed care का होता है SOP. 44 SOPs we have. So
Wow.
if anyone wants to do trauma informed scholarships in Gujarat or Nigeria, take the SOP. We will do a 4 hour this thing, go run with it. And we will not add that number to our scale system chain number. We will, because we have figured a way how trauma informed care can be delivered at scale. And we are not arrogant to say, oh, we do it the best, or we know it the best. We have figured the process to this madness, and we want to share this process with or without credits. And we are okay about it.
So the you are saying the it could scale up anywhere in the world, given the right intention of people. They could take this process and methodology and keep art at the heart of it and change multiple destinies.
Absolutely, yes. I think if the process is right, something that we also as a value system define as freedom within the framework, which basically means yes, there is a framework. 80% also if you stick to it, and 20% you bring the flexibility, because art as a very way or a process itself cannot, should not be rigid. It needs to have that little stroke of theater. It can be theater for one group, it can be dance movement for another, it can be painting or stargazing or filmmaking for another, right? And I think it is this freedom to experiment with art. हमने शुरू में मधुबनी के साथ किया था, फिर कोई और टीचर्स आए, तो वारली हो गया, but the
Uh,
process stays.
Even pottery, I remember some of the pottery work that I received. Yeah. So, Sonal, as you can see, I'm a great admirer of yours, and I can go on talking to you for many hours. But there are a lot of viewers there who want to ask you questions. So, Khushbu, if you can just please put your questions in the comment section. There is no guarantee that I will answer them, but we will certainly ask Sonal to answer your queries. I think they are still recovering from your comments.
Sir, if I can ask you, chalo, out of syllabus for you, uh, what has been your most, I think, memorable moment as you were crafting brand Protsahan in the last decade now, but in the last 3, 4 years for you?
I think it was hard. That we refer to it as a brand asset,
Hmm.
right? It's something which will not change over time, over geography, and that it got crystallized in a simple enough word that can connect with anybody anywhere in the world. It's, I mean, it's very rare to have a brand asset which is so totally anchored in what the brand stands for. Like you admitted that it is not to do with the brand name, it's nothing to do with the logo, it's nothing to do with the color, it's to do with what it stands for, that unchanging idea about the warmth, the hug, all of that. Those are, that to me has been the seminal moment when I've said, okay, if we can now have proof that this works, then we have on hand a brand that is absolutely fantastic. I'm very, very proud to have been involved along with you and with Jess and with everybody. So I have said, I don't think there are any questions. So I have thanked you many times in private, Sonal. It's time to thank you in public. So two thanks to you and one thank you to the audience who has been kind enough to return to this seventh edition. So goodbye and
Thank
thank you.
you.